but I just came to confess that I'm just feeling so blessed. I'm just feeling so blessed. I'm just feeling so blessed. Wake up every day, big smile on my face. I just came to confess that I'm just feeling so blessed.
All right, party time. Let's see where the group is at. Let's get this mental theater popping. You heard? You found me?
I'm in.
What up, Big Mike?
What up? Tony, I can see you, so what's up with you?
Tony, you might need to adjust your camera. You're not as tall as I am.
Yeah.
There he is.
It's how you dress when you got no job, man. Oh, Josh, you know a little bit about that until tomorrow.
Yes, while I'm still at work, diligently.
Right? This guy.
Oh, with the Lakers hat. So, getting into it. Host, take us to church.
Okay, so welcome to our at-home quarantine version of Mental Theater.
The quarantine edition.
Yes, but you've heard the three of us before. You listen to Mental Theater on several different platforms. And of course, I'm your host, Big Mike. Also, we got our guy, Tony Starks Jr. in the building, in his robe. Old man Hefner there. And of course, the creator of Mental Theater himself, Mr. Josh Waring.
How do I make sure that all of our cameras are being recorded?
No, if at the bottom it says record. If you hit record, it will record everything. That's on the screen.
It's recording already.
Yeah, it's recorded now, but I only see the recording icon over my mic and video icon. So I want to make sure it's for both of y'all as well.
Mine says recording right now. I can see it says recording.
All right, just making sure. So we good.
Yeah. All right. So today, while we're at home, and of course people are at home, not working or quarantined and need things to do. So we're going to talk about our favorite trilogies. And a trilogy is good because it can help you pass many hours while you're still waiting to get back to work and discussing the trilogy and absorbing it all the way.
I think Mike knows which one's at the top of my list to recommend to him.
I do. I've already figured that out here.
Well, actually, too. This is the other clue as well.
Is that a trilogy now? Anyway, I'm going to set my timer here, but we're going to timer to Anthony help me figure out on the thing here, by the way. But we're going to jump right into it here. So, Josh, you said you want to start here. So, we want to go 5-1? How we're doing it, or?
Yeah, we can definitely do 5-1.
Yeah, that's how I wanted to do mine. Was from the least to best.
All right, let's go ahead and start it up then.
So, rounding out number 5. I'm going to have to say, Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, I love all of them, but I'll be completely honest. As someone who read the books multiple times, the book is better.
Right. Okay.
But the movies are phenomenal. Shout out to Peter Jackson. You know, all the cast, all the producers. I think they took fantasy to a different level at that time. I think they're iconic, and I'm really surprised Miguel has never seen them.
Yeah. So, I mean, do we have to say that right now?
Oh, yes, we do. We get right to it.
That's all good.
Well, let me ask you real quick. Do you think if you didn't read the books, they would be better to you?
No,
nope.
Not at all.
Okay. That's not good.
And I feel the same way about Harry Potter as well.
Okay.
And I still love all the movies as well. I just think, you know.
Yeah, because you just mentioned that because they didn't touch the books. So you know there are. So I feel like because you read the books and it was so great, then it didn't hit an expectation. So you kind of like it isn't as good to you. So I feel like if you didn't read the books, maybe they might be higher on your list. I don't know.
Well, to be fair, the theatrical releases were different, but they also did have this, extended version that were more accurate to the books. So I actually had the fortune at the Petty School to take a senior elective, and in the elective we watched all the movies. It was about Lord of the Rings because Tolkien is a genius. This man right here, he's an absolute genius. And I don't know where Big Mike went, but
yeah, he just dropped out of my screen.
But yeah, Tolkien. So the actual extended version actually follows more closely aligned to the book. And there's a lot of cool elements that I was like, wait a minute. That was in there, but they decided to take it out. But at the end of the day, Hollywood, Tony, you and I understand how this goes. But at the end of the day, I still have to, it's in my top 5 for a reason.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What about yourself, sir? What you have at number 5?
Oh, so we're going to go around and each person do their 5th one?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. This was a big deal to me. They tapered off a little bit, but again, I'm not well versed as far as what I like as far as entertaining. All right, cool. He's back.
Oh yeah, we see you.
All right, cool.
So I'm not as far as what we call you guys, which might be entertaining you, might be different than me. But a big deal to me was the Scream, man. So Scream is my number 5.
Wait. Did Josh do his whole 5 already?
No. What he's gonna do is he's doing 5. I'll do my 5, and you do your 5. So I think that is kind of cool. Yeah. Right, the Scream was such a iconic series when it came out. Like part 1, like some stuff on my list might be really high, even if the whole series wasn't great. But like one of the series was such a big deal to me. Like Scream 1 was like such a big deal. And then part 2, I feel like what they branched onto, they had it going and they had you really into it. And so the Scream is coming in number 5 for me, the Scream series.
That makes sense. This gentleman loves Halloween, as does his lovely wife. So that makes complete sense.
So we're going to let that slide. However, Scream has 4 movies, so it's not actually a trilogy. So, and
was it actually a 4th one?
Yes, it's a literal 4th movie where.
Wait, I thought the 4th was the rebooting of the 3 of the original.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No. Nev Campbell, the lady from Friends, they all came back for a 4th movie. It's a 4th part of Scream. It's Scream 4, actually. You can look it up while you're there.
All right,
so that's not actually a trilogy. So
all right, you're right. I'm trying to think
I mean, was the 4th movie any good though?
That's not the point.
Yeah, no, you got a point. You're right. You're right. 100% right. Man, that's crazy. I didn't
look it up. Right. Found it? Scream 4?
No, I'm about to look at it. I remember the 4 symbol now. Actually, as I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it came
her
out
little cousin. What's her name?
Came out in 2011.
Yeah, 2011. Scream 4.
You're right. All right. Well,
it's okay.
Yeah, my bad. Botched that one. Just keep going, and I'll replace it.
All right. So, my number 5 would actually be Back to the Future trilogy.
Interesting.
Back to the Future is a trilogy. It's a great trilogy. Part 1, just the introduction to the whole science behind the going time machine, the doc with Marty McFly. It was just so cool for the time period. Sure. You were like a teenager at the time, so I'm sure you liked it, Tony.
Right. I did. It was a big deal.
It was just a fun time. And then part 2 took it up a notch to where, he went to the actual future and he had the sneakers that were like able to like tie to themselves and the skateboard. It was such a big deal for pop culture. Part 3 not as good with like the old timey train, but the first 2 were so great. That's my number 5 trilogy.
Could I real quick throw Star Wars in there? I kind of don't feel like Star Wars. I know you guys are gonna disagree, but I feel like it's not a trilogy because they had so many of them. But I guess the first
there's 3 different distinct trilogies.
But I'm gonna throw Star Wars in there. I don't even think I need to talk about it because you guys are gonna talk about it.
Which one?
The original. The original.
All right,
I'm not. Once the originals ended, I watched them all besides Solo, but I stopped being a fan of Star Wars. So I know you guys are huge into it, all this stuff. I feel like George Lucas doesn't even do it. Anyway, we could whatever. But yeah, Star Wars
counts because they counted as 3 separate trilogies.
I
a whole
guess.
bunch of movies or whatever. So
Okay.
we'll go with that. Go ahead.
All right.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so my number 4 would be
Okay.
the Matrix trilogy, because
Okay.
for the time being, it still is a trilogy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's fair.
Even though they're making
right,
a form.
but it's not out yet.
I still think they're rebooting the franchise,
Okay.
so it could be a separate trilogy, because I feel like this is how Warner Brothers does business. They love trilogies, they love franchises. So I think this will be a new trilogy, but the original Matrix trilogy, absolutely.
I wanted to put that on my list, but I felt like only the part 1 was good. So
and that's fair, and the box office definitely agrees with you on that. I guess for me, esoterically speaking, I mean, especially the Matrix Reloaded is my favorite one. I mean, the first one is a classic, but the Matrix Reloaded and the topics that they discuss with the Merovingian, talking about human nature, it's a very deep movie, very deep film. I think that's why I didn't do good in the box office, because it might have been a little too deep.
Might have been too much, yeah. I think it was the scenery, to be honest with you. I think part 1 was cool because it looked like a real world, and then you had glimpses of them going into like, okay, it looked like our world, but you realized the real world scenery was different. And then the next ones, it was just I think it was too much of, the spaceships or aliens or whatever flying around with the tentacles. I feel like people was like, that's my opinion.
And that's why I count it, actually, because I feel like that the second and third one was like 4 years after the first.
Right.
So the technology got a little bit better. So some of those scenes, fighting scenes, chasing, the car chase scene with the twins is amazing.
Right.
And Reloaded and stuff like that. Not to mention the whole gunfight scene inside the little nightclub. So that's just a lot of those scenery in the second and third movie that wasn't in the first movie, I would say.
So Segway King, speaking of nightclubs, my 4th favorite series, the first scene started off in a nightclub, and it was amazing. And I'm going to the Blade series.
Oh,
nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Blade, that was such a huge, what Blade did for the comic book franchises, period.
Yes.
People like to give it to Iron Man or Batman, but before that, the Blade, I mean, they got worse at times. Actually, no. I think part 2, and it took me a while to realize, I think part 2 was a better movie overall. It had better music, it had a better villain. Like, it was, anyway, but I won't get too deep into that. But yeah, the Blade trilogy is number 4 on mine. I mean, it was, the first movie was almost flawless, right? The second movie, it took me, after watching a couple times, I had to agree with my friend, like, yeah, I think it's the better movie. And the fact that I had to watch a couple times and realize it just shows that both of those movies are kind of cool. And then third one, it was all right. But
Trinity was trash, bro. But it's still a good pick, though.
They shouldn't have put Triple H in there, but
Ryan Reynolds, it was just not good at the time or whatever.
Wow, I actually never seen any of the movies.
Oh wow,
really?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll have to add that to the list out of respect for Tony Stark Jr. And since this is mental theater related, I have to do some breaking news here. So apparently Netflix has gone down in Europe.
Oh wow!
Too many people using it. Oh man!
Or did they
even with them lowering the 25%? Too many people using it. That's crazy.
So hopefully that doesn't happen to us next. But I feel like they lowered it for them just so we could have it more personally.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Yo, listen, if the United States didn't have Netflix, it'd be rioting. We can't Netflix and chill.
To be honest with you, if you don't have a 4K TV or you're not watching it at quality anyway. So it's like a lot of people who don't have that. So I think it's okay to lower 25% for now.
To be honest with you, that is serious. And a lot of people don't think of that, So
yeah,
good point.
So it doesn't really matter. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with my 4th one on the list, and which might even be on Mr. Waring's list. And I'm gonna go with the Spider-Man trilogy.
Wow.
Yes, Miguel.
I figured that. Yeah, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's list, despite the flaws in part 3.
Yeah.
Okay, Doc.
Man, you know what? I should have put that on my list, man.
What you mean?
But Spider-Man 1 was just superb for comic books at that time.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see stuff like that at that particular time. Even Blade, which was good, but it was more like grounded. He wasn't swinging around and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
but
So,
that's not fair because Blade doesn't really do all of what Spider-Man do, so that's not fair.
right. So it was good, but it was easier. I'm saying, like to do what they were able to do and let it be known on screen, especially because that was coming off of a few years after the Spider-Man cartoon. So people who were fans of the cartoon were almost like, yo, it's just like the cartoon kind of deal. So it was good. And then Spider-Man 2.
Just the ages here, that was the newer cartoon, because in my day and age, it was Spider-Man and Friends. You probably wasn't born then, but it's all good.
Yeah, okay. That was back with the Atari, right? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Spider-Man Part 2 is still in the top, I would say, 25 comic book films of all time.
Yes.
Way better than Spider-Man Part 3.
Yes.
Fight scenes were good. It just everything about Peter was good in that movie. It was almost a flawless movie, and it's still one of the best of all time. Part 3 had a lot of villains, so it was good cinematically. It just had some flaws. Overall, that's my number 4 trilogy.
Yeah. Spider-Man 3 was good. I think the delivery was bad. Like, they could have did everything they did, but just I guess the way they put it out there just didn't work.
Yeah, so, something like that. It was just it was something like that.
But some people don't think that, so
yeah,
I guess
Yeah. All right, Josh, number 3, you're up.
Number 3 is the same exact trilogy, Spider-Man, the original, the thing that I would say that set off the modern day version of comic book genre films. If it wasn't for this series right here, I don't think anything would have ever happened personally.
Agree. You like Part 3 more than the other two.
I do, and
like no, real quick, are you serious or you just? I just thought the whole time you're joking. Like you're not serious. That you really like Part 3 that much?
Well, I love Part 3, but I don't love it more than first 2.
Okay.
But I actually do like the third, even though some people don't like Venom, and I don't understand why. I mean, Peter's Venom is spectacular.
Even with Peter walking down the street?
Yeah,
Peter's acting like Tony Stark Sr. Come on. That's how he acting.
He should stay in his lane because that wasn't his lane.
You know, the Sandman wasn't a good villain to me. He had no personality. I think
my problem is everybody was crying in the movie. The Sandman's crying, the Hobgoblin's crying. Peter's like, yo, what is this? The huevos in that movie, man.
It's the resolution. So it wasn't the climax. I would say 2 was the climax of the.
And I feel like they dropped the ball. One of his Spider-Man's most iconic villains is Venom. And you get a chance to put Venom in a movie and the movie end up not being good. Like, that's a shame.
Well, the moment they casted Topher Grace as Venom, I knew it was going downhill from there. Who drops the Chris from the name Christopher? Like, that's just ridiculous and whatnot. So
if you're a celebrity, you got to stand out somehow, Miguel, right? Maybe you just want to go by Gail, right? Or Kyle instead of Michael, you know?
Anyway, what's your number 3, Tony?
My number 3, without a shadow of a doubt, it was awesome. It's Lords of the Ring.
Nice.
Lords of the Ring, Mike. If you get a chance, watch it. I get it. If it's not your thing, then don't watch it. But
that's my thing.
Yeah. Well, now because you said when it first came out, that wasn't. Yeah. Hands down, man. Like, I understand. I think Josh made a good point before when we were talking. Back then, it was long. Nowadays, it's not considered long. And those movies, I'm talking about acting was on point. Costumes was on point. Just everything in all of those movies was great. However, I really, really liked Part 2 the best, just because that battle at the end when he brought. Oh, never mind. That would be a big spoiler. But yeah, man, that's an awesome series, and as long as you don't have a problem with time, it's enjoyable. Awesome.
Now,
awesome.
Is that your favorite too, Josh, or Return of the King is your favorite?
Oh, Return of the King is my favorite. But at the same time, The Fellowship is incredible. So all of them are all 10s.
Right. They're all really good. It's just, for me, it was a certain scene, I won't say, that just drove it. I was just like, the chills, like that was, when the chips are down, that face you get. Dude, for me, that was That was almost like, remember Independence Day? We will not go out without a fight. That big speech, and then all this. Yeah. All right.
No, it's funny. I'm pretty sure me and Jocelyn have the same number 1, so that's hilarious. Actually,
Wow.
But I think we'll lean towards that. But I can see that. We got a lot of stuff we watch in common, Josh and I, actually. So, but my number 3, I'm gonna go with the Star Wars for number 3. Actually, I think just the original 4, 5, and 6, like you said, New Hope. Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back is so good. It's almost flawless. One of those movies, and it's just the introduction and what it did. And for me, it was just I watched it so late, and I was like, it's pretty good, you know. So I really got into it, and it just became a whole thing. The mystery of who's the father, that he's the father. You know, I could imagine that moment back when you were 22 when that came out, Tony, and how you are really like that. So, I'm joking.
I'm about to say in the 70s, I'll be like, what?
I was thinking, hold up.
But no. So that's my number 3. Definitely gotta have Star Wars in there. Bro.
I think Star Wars came out in 77, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Josh, number 2.
Number 2 is what you just listed, the original Star Wars trilogy.
Wow,
and
look at that set right there. That was cost pretty penny right there.
I mean, back in the day, now it's probably what, like $2, because no one really gets disc anymore.
That's right. That's true.
But yeah, for all the reasons you said, just the screenwriting alone and the story plot. I mean, how you're plucking, you know, let's say like the generation of human beings alone, just the different story elements of, you know, being esoteric and things like that. So having a figure like Luke, but also a redeemable character like Darth Vader, who throughout the entire film, you're terrified of him. I mean, not as terrified as Rogue One, that scene, but
that's true. I forgot that he's probably the best villain of all time.
Absolutely.
I forgot to mention that, especially in those 3 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were able to, I think this is really hard to do in film unless you really know what you're doing, to have a character like that and then still everyone still root for him at the end. Yeah. I think that was a success, especially
before even knowing his origin story. They still root for him in the end, so that's a very good success.
Well, I think it's also different. I think what's cool is the 3 of us on here. You guys agree with a lot of things, and I'm giving a different perspective because I just like to be entertained, and my entertainment doesn't mean great acting and stuff like that. But I think also you guys are a little younger than me, so when I'm from the day and age, like, you don't like villains. Like, for instance, right? My wife is younger than me; she's 36, and in The Walking Dead, okay, I won't ruin it, but when they killed a very prominent character, she thought it was really cool. In the new age, the bad guy was like that guy. And I was so like traumatized that I hate this character because I'm older, and I go back from, so back in the day, no, Darth Vader wasn't cool. Darth Vader was a villain. Oh my God, he's just, you know, so, you know, it's a different perspective for me. And I was like, I mean, years later, you look at like, man, Darth Vader is an awesome villain, like a really good bad guy, but I was never rooting for him. But again, back then it was like light and dark. Like, you was a little kid, so you know you had to be into,
just like Back to the Future and Biff, right?
Yeah, like who's liking Biff? But maybe now.
Actually, you know what's funny? The show we're talking about on the previous mental theater, that Josh put on, that I talked about, The Sopranos. You and I were talking about. He's one of the first like actual like bad guys people rooted for. It's one of the Sopranos. Okay.
Gotcha.
Because really, in the end of the day, he's a mafia guy who kills people, right? Because of their money. But you root
allegedly.
for him, allegedly. But you root for him the entire series. So he was one of the first, and that was kind of a taboo at the time. You're right. When the show came out in the 90s, but they were like, yo, we're going to have a bad guy be the main character. And then it went on and on and on. People like, you know, Dexter or other people were like, bad people were the main character, stuff like that. Which is so much so, like, you know, going to forward to like Killmonger, who people love, right? And Black Panther, and then Thanos or whatever, you know, and stuff like that. So it's like now it's switched. You're right. It wasn't as much as then, but as it is right now.
So I'm gonna lead into my number 2 because you just did your number 2, correct? This is gonna be way left field. You guys aren't gonna see this coming at all. It's showing my age. Man, part 1 was such a big, huge deal in my life. Part 3 was trash, but I got my kids to watch it. The Never Ending Story. Dude,
Wow.
the music for the Never Ending Story, I still listen to. Like, that's when, oh man, like that movie, like you had a trail and like listen. Did you both of you guys see that?
I never heard of it until just now.
All right, well, I'm sure I'm positive you wasn't born when it came out.
I
Wait,
believe it, bro.
Wait, is this
I've
the
seen
line?
it.
Is this the line where they're like Bastion?
Yes.
Yes.
Call my name. Yes.
Yeah.
So I know the pop culture reference. That's about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, growing up,
I've seen it. I haven't seen the whole trilogy. I've seen one of them.
Yeah.
Isn't that,
well,
isn't
part
that your
3,
birth year as well, Big Mike? 1984.
Huh?
Isn't that your birth year as well?
It is. It is.
Yep.
Yep. 1984. Yeah.
So part 3 ended up being like a kids movie, but so it was really, really bad, like the characters with the big heads and all that. But part 1 and 2 was really good, just a story. And back then, watching this giant dragon, or luck dragon is what they call them. They look like a giant white floating dog, like on screen as a little kid. It was like amazing, and the animatronics they use, and the big rock creature, and like. I would never but that's my childhood, man. And that part 1, they nailed it. Part 2, they nailed it. Those were some super long movies. So as a kid, it's like watching a movie that long. But the stories was really good. Talk about the really good guy versus the like evil, like this evil, sinister thing. The Nothing was in part 1, and everything is disappearing when the nothing comes to it. You had the Ice Queen up in the ivory tower, like it. That's my number 2, The Never Ending Story.
All right. I will not watch that, but I will take your recommendation for our fans. Definitely. And what's up behind you, Josh? You don't have a closet? What is he hanging us up on a window? What's going on?
It's both. I have both.
Okay. But my number 2 actually is going to be the Captain America trilogy, which is the First Avenger, the Winter Soldier, and Civil War. The last 2 done by the Russo brothers, who I adore simply.
Right.
And even though it had a slow start with the First Avenger was solid. It wasn't great, but It was solid to me. But then the Winter Soldier, which is, as you know, in my top 2 comic movies of all time, or whatever. And then Civil War took up another notch with all the people in there. So that's going to be like, it's a great comic book trilogy overall. His trilogy is the best out of all the Marvel people, overall.
I didn't like Civil War, but
wow, of all things, too, Civil War. That's crazy. But I know, right in Josh's face.
But again, like I said, I like a climactic clash. So I like a really good guy and a really good villain, and the villain was terrible. So if you could prove me wrong, I like to hear it.
Well, the villain was Bucky, right? And Civil War?
No, the villain was pretty much the dude. I don't even know his name, but the guy whose wife died and he got mad, so he set them up.
Zemo was the villain, but that wasn't it wasn't really about a villain. It was more about them fighting each other.
Well, like I said, I like a movie with a really good guy and a really good villain. It had no villain. His villain was trash. So it was like it wasn't a complete movie to me. I just felt like it was missing that that main like, for instance, you know why the second second Captain America movie was really good, Winter Soldier, because dude, when you seen the trailer and he throw the shield and somebody catches the shield, you're like, all right, this guy could go toe to toe with Cap. Then he goes toe to toe like that. That's what I call a movie.
I mean, Winter Soldier is my favorite of all time.
I know.
Of all, like Winter Soldier is amazing. It's grounded. It catches you out of nowhere. It's so good. But Civil War is pretty good too, though. Like some of the fight scenes in Civil War, even between each other, is just like, so dope and whatnot. So, and to me, that's my second best trilogy.
That's cool.
I'm surprised it's not the first.
No, the first is your first, I'm sure. Or what's your first?
Which is obviously the Dark Knight trilogy, as we see here.
That's cool. Did you just put that up today for the show?
He
Nah,
did. Yeah.
nah, that's been up there for at least a couple of years, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, the obviously Christopher Nolan is my favorite director, and I feel like this actually took comic book films to the next level. So we started talking about with what Spider-Man did in terms of the entire landscape of films going forward, and then Christopher Nolan took it that one step next. So I feel like without Christopher Nolan, you wouldn't have the Joker, you wouldn't have, you know, Logan, things like that. So I think that putting Batman in a modern day society with how, you know, essentially how the Joker kind of told how people would react if a crisis happened. So I don't know if you guys saw that video going around of
Yep.
exactly on social media. So to me, it was very realistic. I mean, if there was a way for a billionaire to, you know, be Batman, I feel like it would look a lot like how Christian Bale did it and Christopher Nolan, and shout out R.I.P. to Heath Ledger.
Right.
Okay. You just upgrade the video? That's pretty cool. Josh?
Wait, say that again?
Did you just upgrade our video?
I don't think so. What happened?
It said it has been upgraded by the host. Now we have unlimited minutes.
Yeah, it did say we were running out of time, so I guess we should wrap it up.
Right. So let's wrap it up real quick. I just want to say, Blade was everything you just described with Batman. It was just ahead of his time. If you watch the Blade series, it was bloody, gory, gritty. Blade was everything Batman was, just not as popular. It was ahead of his time. But my number one, guys, it was. But my number one is gonna shock you guys. But huge fan of The Ring, man. The Ring was like,
okay.
Yeah, The Ring. I watched that, probably one of my number one movies I watched the most. And it was just something different. And the way you had to get rid of it was so sinister. Did you seen it?
Ring?
Yeah, The Ring.
I've never seen The Ring. I don't
want to give it away. Well, you probably won't watch it. But anyway, it was so sinister. The way you had to give it away. Remember at the end, like when they went to Blockbuster, I was like, but anyway, and part 2 came out. So each ring added, like, peeled back layers of the story in the movie, because you want to know who's Samora, where she came from. Then you want to know, okay, well, who was her real parents? And then even when part 3 wasn't as well received, but part 3 added that extra layer of, like, her parents and where she really came from. And you was just like, so yeah, that's my all-time favorite movie series.
It actually reminded me of The Grudge as well.
True. They both was
Aren't they both
Japanese stars.
Yeah,
they're both because they're in Japan, and I seen the actual movie. It's actually called Ringu. The original is called Ringu.
Okay.
So yeah.
So no, Blade is nothing like The Dark Knight. I just want to say that.
I mean, it's better if you ask me, but.
And I don't know if we want Miguel to watch The Ring because he loves TV so much. I feel like after Ring 1, he would be terrified of watching TV.
Yeah, for real.
Touche. Okay, all right. I'm with The Dark Knight too, man. I'm with Josh. I knew it was coming, but it's just I think the Batman Begins is underappreciated.
Oh yeah,
actually. And if you go back and watch it now, you realize I did within the last year. I realized how great of a film that was. It's because The Dark Knight set the bar so high, it made you underappreciate Batman Begins, and then it also made you kind of feel like you weren't given enough in Dark Knight Rises because The Dark Knight's so good. But they all are fantastic movies. The whole train scene and Batman Begins.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul. That's really good. Like that, like you said, it just set the bar for me, like for more grounded films, without a whole bunch of superpowers and things like that. Yeah. I thought it was dope. And then for Joker, he just has so many plans on top of plans on top of plans. It just was amazing. And what he did with the Batmobile and the bike and all that stuff, and the way it works, and having Lucius Fox as somebody who like makes it, because before that, like you really never saw Lucius at all in like the comics or cartoons. So it was like once you make it all this shit, but now I'm sorry to curse, but now it's like you can see it. And then like I said, The Dark Knight Rises is underappreciated too. And then we go back and watch that, like your boy Bane. Like I know you like Bane, so.
That was my favorite out of him, but
yeah, and I just think, some of his lines, Joker was kind of cynical and crazy. But some of Bane's lines, like, you know, the part about, you know, he was raised in the darkness, you were only adopted or whatever. Like, that's just, oh my God.
Do you feel in charge?
Yeah, exactly. So Dark Knight, definitely the top trilogy. It's just, it's timeless. It's undefeated. It's the best comic book film.
And if you don't like Batman, then it's probably not that good. but if you're a Batman fan, I agree. Like, if you're a Batman fan, it nails it.
I think if you're a film fan, it should still nail it for you.
No, that's not fair, because some people don't even like comic book stuff, so they would be like, what?
No, that's not at all.
No, for real. Think about it. There's some people who, this is why it's called a genre, right? There's different genres. So some people just, like you mentioned The Sopranos. I told you last night, I would never watch that. Like, no trailer could make me say, oh, I want to watch that. Now, if you end up saying, dude, just give it a chance, watch the first episode, then I might be like, yo, this is amazing. But some people are into genres. And so if you wasn't into comic books, you probably would be like Batman.
Well, to be fair, I would argue, and let's put the Avengers in that category as well, because of the monetary success worldwide. Not that many people are into comic books like that.
Right.
So his point is that people are still going to watch him and love him, whatever, even though they're not comic.
We're just saying it's a good movie regardless of the of the context. But that's a great point.
Yeah.
That is a great point. But like me, like you said, I wasn't into fantasy, and then somebody said, hey, check out Game of Thrones, and now, you know, I love it. So,
yeah,
you
now
know,
it's time to check out Lord of the Rings.
I will watch Lord of the Rings.
You have to. Yeah. You're doing a disservice to yourself to not watch Lord of the Rings.
It's time for you to go to the Shire, which is where Tony is from.
Okay. And then Josh will watch Neverending Story, and then we'll have we'll talk about it together.
Hey, listen. Call my name.
But that's another episode from Mental Theater. Just a little something for you guys to think about.
Also, can you guys both plug BigMike Little Ant and how you guys discovered Zoom, which is the whole reason why we're doing this now?
Yeah, well, Mike actually discovered Zoom, which is amazing. But yeah, we came up with a show, BigMike and Little Ant, and we cover many topics, so nothing's off of the table on our show. But yeah, Mike, take it away, because you came up with Zoom and it's amazing.
Yeah, I just seen some one of my favorite influencers using Zoom, and I realized while this is happening now, we can do that and do a whole show for you guys like we just did, as well as one Anthony and I did last night on BigMike Little Ant on our
and we'll put that we'll put the link in the description below, so check that out, guys.
Yes, definitely. And I thought it would, work out great for us. You're gonna see us more doing it, Josh and I, on a New You Radio probably next week, which will be good, and we'll have more links for that. And while we're doing this, we can just talk about stuff and figure out what we can watch with each other. We'll have another show for you guys soon. Josh, Anthony, and I, with some other type of topics or things you can watch or things to do while you're on this hiatus or quarantine. So we're very excited about that.
Absolutely.
And guys, check out the Mental Theater episode that we just put up recently, where Josh tackled a bunch of different movies. Tell them a little bit about it, Josh.
Well, it's just, I was thinking about what are the ways that people could have escapism, for lack of better words, because that is a healthy part of society, being able to be entertained so you're not, completely engaged mentally all the time. People really need our whole genre, right? Fantasy genre. It was very pivotal for people growing up. Some people getting picked on. Oh, I have a hero like Iron Man, Superman, Batman to look up to and be inspired by, Black Panther, whoever, all the way to Harry Potter and Star Wars, right? So it is a very, I would say, it's a very healthy to engage in your imagination. And I feel like these films that we all come together and identify with in peace, which is dope, and sometimes in squabbling, but I do think it's very fun and needed. So that's why I was like, all right, what are some of the best shows that you could watch right now while being quarantined? Then I also came up with something else like this show right here. Yeah. And then the next one we're going to do next are the best franchises,
which I'm sure will be the shirt he has on right now. So,
that'll be in there. Obviously, there'll be some Avengers in there.
Now, here's the cool thing. I'm curious to see if you guys' franchises will still connect. I could guarantee mine is going to be way different than you guys, but I can't wait to see it. Like, that's going to be awesome.
All right, well, you guys heard it. That's going to be our next show we'll do, and we'll bring you that soon. Thank you for listening. All right, you have and watching.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us, and be safe out there.
All right.
What is thy bidding, my master?